It's the Regular Expressions podcast. Join Noah Heldman and Ben Griswold as they talk about technology, consulting, and life. In episode 4, Noah talks about how his experience as a musician has shaped the way he approaches technology consulting.
Hey, we've got music. Big intro. First, thanks. You put some time into that.
Yeah, I figured I have a little bit of a background in music, so should put it to good use, right?
Yeah, you definitely we're sounding professional. I'm digging it. Yeah. So your background in music. Tell me a little bit about this, Noah.
Well, believe it or not, I was not always a software developer. Came upon that pretty late,
Mhm.
but music pretty early. I think I was 4 when I first started playing the drums.
Okay.
Dad was a music teacher, and I ended up following that path. Got my degree in music from UCSD. That was actually a degree in percussion, which is kind of
Ooh.
bizarre that you can do that. I,
Uh-huh.
I'm a professional percussionist, so there you go.
Yeah.
Played all kinds of different
Percussioner. I
stuff.
think it's
Yeah. Oh,
percussioner.
right. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. They didn't teach me that though. Um, yeah, and played guitar from very young, a little bit of piano. I was always
Mhm.
exposed to it. So it was always there. I knew it would be a part of my life. I just didn't know how much a part of my life. So yes, I've got a career as a technology consultant,
Mhm.
done software development for a long, long time, but music has always been a hobby. It's been an outlet. It's been a way to
Mhm.
balance my life. We were talking about life work balance at the end of our last
Yeah,
episode.
that's right.
It's a big and necessary part
Mhm.
of me being happy in my life.
Yeah, yeah. So this, wrote a little music as the intro, probably an outro to this. You write music often. You're currently in a band. You're doing a lot there.
Yeah.
Um, Tell me just about that a little bit. Each time you're saying, I've got a show tonight, right? With the
Right.
show, it's all of your gear. It's calling ahead of time to make sure that you can get the gigs at X number of locations. You play all over the place. Can you tell me a little bit about just preparation when it comes to music and being in a band?
Yeah. And I'm thinking right back to the conversation we just had about trail running.
Hmm.
Preparation, of course, really,
Yeah.
really important part of that as well. Yeah, it's interesting because when you're learning to play an instrument for the first time, there's that practice, that preparation, and it's very internal. You may or may not have a teacher. I think a lot of people are learning on YouTube
Mm.
today, which is amazing. What an incredible resource to learn how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
I had a teacher who was telling me some of just the core principles of practice.
Mm.
Small exercises played
Mhm.
slowly, built up over time, and you get to a certain point where something that seemed impossible is now easy. And thinking of software, it was the same story. It came far less naturally to me because I
Mhm.
started later in life, but I started to see those parallels pretty early on. It's like, oh, I'm writing code, I'm trying to solve this very simple problem, running into syntax errors all over the place. It
Yeah.
doesn't quite make sense. Then you press that button and the thing prints out, ABC or whatever it was, and you feel like you're just a hero. You've just conquered the world with your 30 lines of code.
Mhm.
Similar kinds of vibes. Every time you reach that next benchmark, practicing the drums, practicing the guitar, or doing something just slightly more complicated than you've done before in coding, or as it expands into the technology consulting world, in a conversation with someone who might be higher up in an organization than you've ever talked to. And it's scary, but you put
Mhm.
yourself out there. And I feel like performing music
Yeah.
and performing in front of a customer, a client, there's a little bit of similarity there too.
The improv aspect to it, right? I'm wondering, say, your current band,
Yeah.
it's like a jam band, right?
Yep.
And it reminds me a lot of other bands where you you hear them playing and then they just like the music goes on and on and on. You're like, almost as if you're playing off of each other. Like it's cool, like let Noah go, and we know he's going to come back, and we can pick up the rest of the music, the lyrics a bit at that point. There's a individual component, right? You're banging on your drums or you're playing guitar. That said, you also need to be really clued into what the rest of your team members are doing. Sounds like there's a lot of trust there that you're going
Yes.
to come back. Tell me a little bit about that. What it's like working with the band rather than what you were saying, a lot of practice on as an individual level.
Yeah, I always used to say that being in a band is like being in a relationship with four people. And that can get really complicated.
Yeah.
But if you have the right people, it's pretty amazing what you're
Hmm.
all able to do
Hmm.
together. In terms of improvising, what you learn with software, what you learn with music is there's a set of rules that's well established. It's a great idea to learn those rules before you break them. You always go back
Hmm.
to that foundation as a launching point for whatever innovative, interesting, improvisational thing you might do next. And I'm
Hmm.
calling this out for both music and technology. On the
Sure.
music side, uh, if I'm going to improvise effectively, I need to be locked in, listening to what everyone else is doing. You can feel where things are going in terms of overall energy, mood. Are we all driving forward? Are we all emptying out? Is there a little bit of a push and pull from the rhythm section to the guitar and keyboard? All
Hmm.
those things come into play really at every single show.
Hmm.
Not unlike you're on a new team developing an application, you're trying to feel out, okay, if I'm a full stack engineer and there's a front end engineer, how much do I defer to that person? Is the UX designer 100% responsible for all design, or are we going to
Right.
work together and collaborate and get to a better product as a result? Who's kind of the band leader, the project manager, whoever that might be. So
Yeah.
there are those team dynamics in a band and in a software team, and then you have to have that trust built, like you called out, if you're going to be able to improvise and feel like no matter how far you get out there, there's going to be your teammates, your band members to catch you when you come back.
Mhm. Yeah. When you're performing, oftentimes you must be building a relationship with the audience as well. You must be picking up on, well, what is it that excited, getting out of the dance floor, or maybe they're, swaying back and forth, singing along. I'm sure that's something that's like, oh man, look at them singing along. I wonder how aware are you of the crowd, and how does that maybe bring you to playing a different song or going longer or what have you?
Very aware of the crowd, and I play in the band you mentioned, and I play in a very different band that's
Mm,
just me and a woman who plays piano and sings, very much stripped down,
mm,
lots of room, lots of listening and space and nuance. And we have that to some degree in the jam band as well, but it's a
mm,
different conversation. It's like you're having a one-on-one
mm,
conversation versus you're at a party and everyone's contributing something, or you're at a business meeting and everyone's contributing something.
mhm,
So yeah, it's really interesting that parallel to just having a conversation comes down for me to are you listening and listening effectively? And I think listening and active listening, especially, are really incredible skills,
mhm,
and they take a lot of practice. And you have to recognize when you feel like I need to say the next thing. These words are in my head, and then that starts to fill your head, and you're no longer listening because you're worried about what's the next thing I'm going to say. Got to get it out there. We all do that, and so you just learn to recognize when you have those filters and when you're trying to form ideas before you've processed what the other person is saying. It happens in music, it happens with the band, with the audience,
mhm,
like you mentioned.
mhm.
I like to look at if there's a couple dancing that came out in the middle of a song and we might end in 30 seconds, we should all feel like let's give them a chance. Like, they're just getting going. Let's let them finish this dance, and maybe it brings up other people uh,
Mhm.
when they see that energy as well. So yeah, you're reading the room, You're listening, you're feeling the vibe. It works on stage, it works in rehearsal with your band, it works
Mm,
within your team, it works when you're having a customer meeting.
yeah, yeah. Bringing this back to consulting a bit, we've had those experiences where we have a kickoff meeting with the client, or we're just doing some blue sky, chatting through like where do they want to go with their product or what's their vision. Usually, sometimes you can really start leaning in. You're like, you can tell like everybody's really involved and things are good. Just, the flow is there. With some customers, potential customers, there's maybe a wall sometimes. There isn't that trust quite yet. There isn't that feeling of we're just playing off of each other and figuring out together like where we want to go. Do you ever have that with an audience where it's like they're just not really engaged yet? And if you do, how do you pull them in? Is there anything you need to do with your own mindset to get going? Do you start really leaning into your other band members and saying, well, this one's going to be for us this time and a learning experience, or anything come to mind when I ask that?
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about that because this may be one of those areas where there's a little bit more of a break in what you're able to do as a band on stage to connect with an audience versus what you're
Mm,
able to do in a meeting where you feel like you're not landing and you're not getting through. Like there's the wall you
mm,
said. So sure, there's things you can do to bring up the energy as a band. Maybe you just decide like let's cut this song short and just go to a crowd favorite. We gotta
mhm.
flip this crowd, get them on board. Sure, we can use those techniques. I find that when you're in that conversation with technology or with a business meeting,
Mhm.
we hear the phrase we want to meet them where they're at all the time. I think that's a
Sure.
little bit of an overused phrase because there's a lot going on with that phrase. Meeting someone where they're at is listening so deeply that you can almost get into their shoes and and carry along the conversation from their viewpoint. Can't
Mhm.
really do that as a band with a
Sure.
with a crowd, even if the crowd isn't that large.
Mhm.
But when you're in that meeting and you're really trying to make a connection, if you're listening well, then you can kind of adapt to where the person is at and almost win
Yes.
win them over from the inside because you're showing that deep care and understanding for what they're going through.
Nice. Yes, I can see how that can work very well when it's in front of a customer as well. I love that. You know, in software, there tends to be the there tends to be the point when you want to chase that shiny new technology. Like
Mm,
here's the new tool, here's the new service. Like, all right, let's lean in, learn it, see if we then can apply it to something, right? Then there's
yeah.
also the tried and true processes, the methodologies, the tooling and languages, which we know, hey, they just work. Right? No one's going to get fired for using application XYZ.
Yeah.
Right? I know that you've done a few different things with your band and some of the, I'm just going to call it like the electrical makeup of your band, right? I'm
Yeah.
wondering about that, like deciding, yes, it's time for an upgrade. We need to do something a little different here. Or on the other side, like, let's just play the classic hits because we know they're going to land. Can you tell me a little about the tech as well as the song choices and music and how you decide if you're going to push it in a new direction or stick with the good old song list?
Well, I think you're outing me as a shiny object chaser, which is totally fair.
No.
I I do love I love new technology. I love to learn the latest thing. Really bleeding edge is kind of what it ends up being in a lot of cases. And I
Mhm.
follow the same trends with music and what's
Mhm.
possible for a band to just sound better to themselves, to the audience,
Mhm.
rehearse more efficiently, set up and break down more efficiently. All those things I'm always looking to optimize and improve. There are real and practical implications of choosing bleeding edge software to run a major project. There's a time and a place, and then there's a risk analysis that you do. It's like, we want to use this new technology because it will accelerate our development by 40%. Here's the
Hmm.
potential downside. Here's how we might mitigate that. If it does happen, there's a path, right? So let's take a chance, if you have limited budget, on really accelerating this thing and getting it out the door,
Right.
and be ready for any of the fallout that might happen. On the music side, it's, I don't know, I guess we did move to a completely electronic setup with in-ear monitors. So we each have our headphones in that
Yeah.
blocks out all the sound. Nobody has an amplifier on stage. My drums are completely electronic. And
Yeah.
that's all about control. We want to have control over the dynamics, the acoustics, the balance of the sound. Each of us has our own custom mix. We hear exactly what we want to hear. It makes
Hmm.
us perform better. It makes us listen more effectively. We're singing three-part harmonies and they're intricate. If you're a typical bar band, you have your stage monitors on the floor that are just
Yeah.
booming out music. You maybe had 30 seconds to dial in the sound that the sound person was able to give you. And
Sure.
it's probably not great 95% of the time,
Mhm.
but you suffer through it by
Yeah.
taking a little bit of time up front and having some bleeding edge technology on the music side. We have this opportunity to sound the best we can sound, and we're taking a little bit of a risk. We might
Yeah.
have something go sideways. There was one show a
Right.
while back now where something did go sideways. These electronic drums, I was hitting the snare drum right in front of me, and all of a sudden it just stopped. There was
Hmm.
no sound. No matter how hard I hit it, nothing came out of it.
Yeah.
And talking about improvising from earlier in our conversation, I
Hmm.
thought, okay, well, all of the other drums are working.
Yeah.
And if you don't know drums, the snare drum is the most important drum in the entire drum
Yeah.
kit. It's the backbeat. It's that thing you hear that keeps you moving.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I thought, well, I have an electronic drum kit that I know how to program. Yes, I'm in the middle of a song, but I think I can change it so that this drum up here sounds like the snare. I just have to point one to the other. So while I was playing the middle of the song, I'm tapping the buttons here, programming with my left hand, playing with my right, and I dial up the sound of a snare drum on my tom, which is right in front of me.
Yeah.
And the rest of the show was another at least half an hour. I'm playing with this hand up here just to get that sound. Um, so improvised, made it work, laughed a little bit, and then had a very sore shoulder the next day because I was reaching so far to play. But there you go.
What's the saying? Like, I don't always hot fix code, but when I do, it's in
It's in
production. It goes,
production.
yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing. Uh, we were chatting about something along the lines of how can a stakeholder or a potential client get to the chase and realizing, like, boy, these consultants really know what they're doing. I think we're going to have a follow-up episode on that.
Yeah, that'd be
Wondering
great.
if there's anything just with the band, right? Are there any tells when it comes to a good band and, whether or not they're hacks or they're actually like really got their stuff together? What should I look for
Yeah.
at the next concert?
Well, if we do that episode you're talking about, which I'm super excited to do, I'll go
Mhm.
right back to listening, active listening, as
Yeah.
probably the number one thing.
Hmm.
And the next, which has always been big as I look for qualities of people I'm interviewing, is attention to detail. That's
Hmm.
huge. That shows up in so many ways. If someone is interviewing a consultant,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of things that they might say or reveal that indicate their attention to detail, which
Hmm.
which just shows care.
Yeah. So how does that show up when you're playing? The attention to detail.
It shows up in a bunch of different ways, especially if we're in that mode where we don't know where a song is going officially. We haven't mapped it out, which is the most fun. So it's not maybe quite improvisational yet. It's more,
Mhm.
where are we headed? and you'll kind of look around at the rest of the band and you'll see the slightest little head nod that you've seen before, or you see a body shift,
Yes.
or a new chord comes up that's an extended chord so that it creates this long sustain and it makes you feel like, all right, we're going to empty this out and create a wash of sound rather than create
Hmm.
a driving rhythm. It's just that being in the conversation musically and
Hmm.
being ready to respond to anything that happens.
Yeah, makes sense. Do you ever run experiments or like spikes
Mm,
when you're playing just to test them out, see how well they go, and if you want to continue or not?
yes. If I've learned something new recently when practicing at home and building it up slowly,
Hmm.
I might try to bust that out as a fill in the middle of a song. What'll happen is I'm playing the song, and a lot of that's second nature, which is why I can maybe program a snare drum to be in a different place while I'm
Hmm.
playing with one hand. There's a
Hmm.
level of proficiency that I've reached where I can play the basic beat no problem. But then I'll be in my head thinking through if I'm going to try this fill, if I'm going to run this spike right now,
Hmm.
it might fail, it might succeed, but I'm going to go through the motions of it first, almost like you're doing that test. You're going to run it through a series of tests
Hmm.
before you decide to unleash it. So obviously you're practicing at home. That's one test. You've you put it into production for the first time, you don't know what's
Hmm.
going to happen because now you're at scale. Now there's an audience, right? And I would say 50 to 60% of the time, it lands. It's good. I hate to
Hmm.
feel like, oh, that was great. I'll do that again sometime. And then it becomes part of the repertoire. You get comfortable with the thing you just spiked. You know, you can look back
Yeah.
on it in the future. And the other 30, 40, whatever it is percent, it didn't work at all. And I'll have a laugh and I'll just get right back on beat and keep going and say, hey, well, more practice, or maybe that was never meant to be.
Yeah, sure, sure. Last show that I saw, you had somebody substitute in for your bass player.
That is true.
That was interesting to me because I think of teams, and I mentioned the word gel earlier, and you play off of each other, and you can just count on, your guitarist or your singer or your pianist doing that thing at this time. You practice, you prepare, you get ready. Implement adding somebody new, and I'm sure you played with this person before, but adding them into a show and more importantly, subtracting one of your band members,
Mhm.
how is that? How much does it change things for you on the night of a show?
This is a genius question, because of the parallel to the technology team as well.
Mhm.
So on the music side, she is someone that we had played with before, maybe three other times. But
Okay.
of course, there was a first time, and that was the first time I had ever
Mhm.
played with her. As a
Oh.
drummer playing with a bass player, that's where you want to lock in. That's the rhythm section. That's an important
Hmm.
on-stage
Right.
relationship and listening exercise.
Hmm.
What I think good musicians tend to do is just simplify and
Yeah.
find that baseline, that grounding part of the conversation.
Hmm.
And then depending on how it feels, if everything is locked in, you might take a little bit of a risk and you make that eye contact and
Okay.
throw a couple little extra beats in there. And if you get the response you're looking for, you start to build off of each other.
Hmm.
Sometimes it stays tentative the whole time. It doesn't happen in the course of a song or a set or a show. It takes three or four shows before it's like,
Hmm.
oh, we've had this conversation before. We're comfortable now. Bringing that right over to the technology team, we've
Hmm.
all had people swap out of teams and a new person joins. And
Sure.
I think it's a lot of the same thing. You have to reestablish that baseline. You can't be in the world of you're in the middle of a project dealing with all the complexity. Just jump in and do the hardest thing. You're going to be fine. Like we're going to throw you off the deep end. It's much more, if you're a kind team, it's much more about bringing them in a comfortable way, giving them small successes in a careful area of the code first,
Hmm.
then just letting them build and be themselves.
Yeah. I have shared with you in volleyball. There's some teams that build their relationship off the court. And because they have this bond off the court, they can then play better on the court.
Right.
There's some other teams that they start playing really well together on the court, and that means they then have formed a bond and they can, have a lot more fun off of the court. Right?
Yeah.
I'm curious with bands in your experience, is it you already have a relationship and then you start playing together, or do you find you play together and like, oh, I'm ready to hang out a little bit more with you?
I've had every possible experience you can imagine, I think, in all the bands I've played in, which is interesting for
Mhm.
comparison. So I've had friends, longtime friends that turned into bandmates. I've
Mhm.
had bands that were entirely made up of people I had never met before, and you show
Mhm.
up at rehearsal, and now suddenly we're a band. There's That's really complicated. Uh,
Sure.
because you don't have anything to go on. If music is the first conversation you have,
Hmm.
you better be able to speak fluently. Otherwise,
Sure.
it's just a train wreck, right?
Wow.
If you do have that opportunity to have built up some relationships, what's happened in my career is I've worked with different musicians in different configurations over decades. So the band I'm in
Hmm.
right now, I had played with two of the other guys before, but
Hmm.
not the third. But I was on a show with the third guy.
Right.
He was on before us at a show in LA. So met him briefly. So it was kind of like, oh, hey, great job. See you around kind of thing. And then,
Hmm.
15 years later, we're in a band together. So there are these weird connections that weave through the musical world, and the San Diego music scene especially is
Hmm.
very close knit. There's a lot of people who have been doing this as long as I have or longer, and we're
Hmm.
all rooting for each other. And then we all play in bands with each other. It feel feels very incestuous actually. But it's no, it's very good.
Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds a lot about like what we do work-wise. We have a strong network. We've worked with people at one time and then moved off to other companies, and we kind of come back in and we're
Exactly.
together. The band's back together, so to speak.
Right.
Right. Um, I find I'm picking up on though is, volleyball, music, etc. Um, there's the off and on the court. There's you're playing together or you're bonding outside. And with work, let's say consulting, you don't always get that. It seems that sometimes it's all about just we're heads down, we're here in the workplace solving our customers' problems, and not as much stepping away, grabbing the coffee, going to a show together, whatever it is to bond, lunch, right? Just go
Right.
and bond with each other. And maybe there's a lesson there on how teams really can gel, and maybe bringing that into our work too. Mhm.
The high performing team concept. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it ends up getting thrown around as a little bit of a buzzword, but there's a lot of truth to it.
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to put people in situations that they wouldn't naturally put themselves in, to get those great results. But
Mhm.
absolutely agree.
Yeah. I want to ask one last question and then we're going to wrap this.
Sounds good.
It would be terrifying for a lot of people to stand in front of others and perform, whether that's public speaking, singing, playing an instrument, juggling, stand-up comedy, whatever it happens to be, right? You've done this for a long time. You shared you really don't have any of those pre-show jitters any longer, right? You've just drummed them out of your system, apparently.
Yeah.
Do you have a tip maybe for people who are finding themselves in front of the camera a little bit more?
Well, when I look at when I'm least comfortable performing
Hmm.
music, it's when I'm playing guitar versus drums. I'm
Mm.
just a little bit less confident, and a guitar is much smaller. So your fingers have to be in exactly the right place for it to sound right.
Right.
Drum's a pretty big target. You can be five
Sure.
inches off and you're still going to hit the thing. So
Hmm.
what I'm really trying to say is find the thing you're comfortable with and start there. Start small. And don't overextend yourself. Don't put yourself in a tricky position right out of the gate. That said, there are times when you do have to push yourself beyond your comfort zone, but I don't think that should be the default. It's a little bit like what I was saying, where it's like do you ever do something a little bit bleeding edge? And it's like, yeah, I'm going to try out a new fill on the drums that I'm maybe not ready for. And sometimes it doesn't hit, but I can fall back on my comfortable baseline. So yeah, take those slow steps, build it up, get that confidence, know the thing that you're going to be able to talk about. And maybe that's just a passionate topic for you, something very personal that you have no problem talking about. And then you build to something that's a little scarier for you, but still within reach.
Yeah. Well, thanks for talking about your passion today, Noah.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thanks for the great questions.
You got it, buddy.
Yeah. Wait, what's that music?
What? Oh.
Ooh. Oh, that's jamming. Wait, I can't compliment my own music. Great to talk, Ben.
Yeah, you too. I'll see you.